Hello, everyone. A number have contacted me asking for updates. Um, Again, I'm David Harris. If you don't know me, I've been sharing an account of a heart attack that I had recently and some issues pertaining to medical care that accompanied that. So a lot have asked how I'm doing. Well, I'm doing. I suppose every day is a little better. It is, however, a very, very slow process. Um, Usually what I would have been able to do 10 or 12 hours a day working, now at 4 or 5 I'm spent. Just issues that go along with it. And it's going to take time. I will be beginning cardiac rehab next week to help boost and rebuild the strength of my heart. But a long way to go. But like I said, every day is a little better, and I'm thankful for that. I've been overwhelmed. Appreciate all of those who have called and texted and reached out to show support, and just want to say thank you for that. Kind of same as before the last video. I didn't write a script and read from a script. I just spoke from the heart. Along that line, there were a couple of details that I realized I left out. For one, the incident the Wednesday night when I began coughing, that I attributed to congestion in my lungs was not. The amount of fluid that I had consumed that day, unaware of what was going on in my heart, was actually what was building up in my lungs. So I was essentially drowning from my own fluid. It was not a respiratory issue. The other thing, when I talked about the artery in my heart that was blocked, I said lower anterior descending, and that is not correct. It's left anterior descending. So just to make a couple of corrections there. Several points that I want to make here, and do my best to try to move through it quickly. But just so maybe at times not in any particular order, but just some information to share with you. One of the things I guess that I will begin with, what I hold here, I realize that you can't read this, but this is a public record document, and I'm going to read just some brief portions, about 11 pages long, but just a couple of brief portions of that, beginning with the heading, before the State Board of Nursing, before the Georgia Board of Nursing, State of Georgia, in the matter of Joshua David Wise, license number RN 310097. I'm going to skip down on this first page, couple of paragraphs, down to the third paragraph on the page, under the subheading of findings of fact, the second paragraph. On or about February 2nd, 2023, the board received a complaint from Washington County Regional Medical Center, hereinafter hospital, that respondent was suspected of impairment while on duty. Specifically, the allegation stems from an incident on January 17th, 2023, wherein hospital staff reported respondent smelled like alcohol and had impaired speech. Respondent submitted to 2 alcohol screenings with readings of 0. Now it's written here 0.96. I believe that's a typographical error. I'm assuming that would be 0.096. However, It is recorded as 0.96 at 9:36 a.m. and 0.088 at 10:03 a.m. In a letter of explanation to the board, respondent accepted full responsibility for his actions and acknowledged that he should have stayed home that morning. As a result of respondent's conduct, he became a participant in the, quote, last chance drug-free workplace program. So, let's get this straight. January 17th, an RN on duty in the Washington County ER is drunk. No two ways about it. As 0.08 is the blood alcohol level in Georgia that constitutes the crime of driving under the influence. Certain other circumstances, it may be as low as 0.04, but generally speaking, 0.08 in Georgia is considered legally intoxicated, and it is illegal to drive a car with that much alcohol in your system. 9:30 in the morning. RN in the ER that's legally drunk. Chew on that for a little bit. Oh, by the way, guess what? The nurse, I would say cared for me, but he didn't provide any care. The nurse, in fact, the individual that told me I was fine, there was nothing wrong with me, I was ready to go home. Guess who it was? Well, yes, it would be this same Joshua David Wise. Now, don't know if he was drunk that night. Didn't get close enough to me for a smell. I don't know if alcohol was an issue or not. My question is, folks, why does an employee who's legally drunk at work still have a job? Interesting question. The physician that night, his name was Dr. Kisselberg. So those were the two players, Dr. Kisselberg and Josh Wise. We'll get back to that a little later on. On Monday of this week, I received a letter last week from Pam Stewart, CEO of Washington County Regional Medical Center, extending an opportunity that she had become aware by nature of third parties that I may have complaints pertaining to care that I received, and offering an opportunity to meet with me if I would like to discuss. I accepted, and we met at 10:30 Monday morning of this week, which was, I'm sorry, forgive me, I don't know the date right off the top of my head, the 2nd, or maybe it was the 3rd. Anyway, Monday of this week, the first week of February, we met at 10:30. So I'd like to share some points from that meeting with you. So first and foremost, just a public service announcement, PSA, to make you aware, should you ever have issue with any care at Washington County Regional Medical Center. So here is the procedure for you to follow. You are to register your complaint with whoever, I don't know, I guess grab the closest person and say, hey, I have a complaint. That complaint will then be forwarded on to Miss Stewart, who will take it before the medical review committee or medical something committee. And they'll decide if there was an issue. If there is an issue, then the majority of the time, what they do is require, as she put it, CEU, which, as you know, stands for Continuing Education Units, or, essentially they require a physician to be trained to receive training. She stated very, very seldom is a doctor asked not to practice at Washington County Regional Medical Center anymore, with some exception, but very, very rarely. And oh, by the way, guess what? This whole procedure, it's confidential. Kind of sounds a lot to me like sweeping things under the rug. What's wrong with transparency? it was interesting to me that Miss Stewart seemed to be more angry that I didn't follow this procedure for reporting a complaint than she was at the fact that I received negligent substandard care in the emergency room of Washington County Regional Medical Center. Miss Stewart also became very defensive when I showed her. She was very well familiar with Mr. Wise and his situation. And she became very defensive when I questioned and asked why someone who was drunk on the clock still had a job. She never did answer, and her answer was, well, I say that she didn't. So she pointed to the section in the document here and pointed out that the Georgia Board of Nursing had put him in a last chance drug-free workplace program, as if the state of Georgia, and I explained to her, you know what, Georgia they're speaking up in relation to his nursing license, which, oh, by the way, is on probation as a result of this. The state of Georgia has nothing to do with whether or not someone continues to be employed. And even if that was the case, this incident happened on January 17th, 2023. This docket from the nursing board is dated April 26, 2024. So well over a year. Interesting. As having had HR management and safety management experience in my background, I've never known of a drug-free workplace that you could be positive under the influence, in this case of alcohol, to a mind-altering level and keep your job. Folks, medicine is dangerous. I'll give you an example just right off the top of my head. 3 emergency cardiac medications that all begin with A. Adenosine, atropine, amiodarone. Emergency cardiac medications, they all begin with A. One of those medicines actually stops your heart from beating. One of those medications will speed up a slowly beating heart. The other medication will address various dysrhythmias in the heart, but generally kind of helps to slow down activity. Very easy to confuse those. Medication dosages can be very complicated to calculate. Literally a placement of a decimal, the difference between 0.01 and 0.1, just the placement of a decimal place, could result in someone being overdosed on medication. You know, you need your full faculties and your full function, and certainly someone who is legally intoxicated cannot safely provide medical care. Why is it that the hospital so rabidly defends this employee? But yet I'm a bad guy for speaking up publicly about the fact that they sent me home to die. Things that make you go, I was also told by the CEO, so again, we'll come back to those names, Josh Wise, Dr. Kisselberg. I was told by the CEO that, you know, when I commented that complaints had been filed on, and the CEO was not aware of any complaints. And I started to provide her with people that I knew, but then I thought, you know what? No, I'm not doing their job for them. I have persons that are willing to give notarized legal documentation of complaints that were filed with their supervisor. Now, the CEO may not be aware of these complaints. Somewhere in the system, the information may have died and never made it further. But I can tell you, previous complaints have been filed on both of these individuals. Another issue with the hospital, I've repeatedly, as of yet, they are not giving me my entire medical chart. I've asked more than once. They did charge me $34.61 for 10 pieces of paper, but it is far from the complete medical chart. Why is the hospital holding back my chart? Something they want to hide, maybe, who knows? All I know, it's my chart. I'm legally entitled to it. I've requested it more than once, and as of yet, it's not been provided. Want to make it clear, just said hitting some random points here. I'm sorry if these are kind of random. I want to make it clear. Some seem to take it to take my message and to think that I want the hospital shut down. I recognize, folks, I've been an advocate for this facility for many years. Many years. I've stood up for it. I've spoke well behind closed doors. In situations, when it came up in conversation, always advocated for it. Always tried to show support. I have pulled my checkbook out of my pocket and written a check, a donation to the hospital in the past. So you certainly can't accuse me of someone who is anti-hospital. However, what I do want, and some have asked me that too, hey, Dave, what is it? What are you after here? What are you trying to accomplish? Here's what I want. I want accountability and I want change. For at least 13 years that I know of, this community has, our coffers and taxes have been raided. Every time you turn around, the hospital's crying and wanting money. We've gone through God knows how many changes of administration. You know what? What I want to see somebody in here that's a real hospital administrator with with experience, with training, with a capability of being the executive officer of a hospital that knows how to run a hospital. And I'm here to tell you, folks, a true executive officer, if they can't stand up and they can't admit, hey, we dropped the ball, we messed up here. If your approach to that is to attack and vilify and demonize the person who you almost killed, you make that person out to be the bad guy instead of taking ownership. How can you ever fix a problem that you won't admit that you have? Guess what? A real CEO, a real manager, a real administrator knows how to properly handle that. Far cry of difference when I spoke with one of the physicians who owns the group which provides doctors. One of the first things he told me was, hey, I sure am glad you got to a facility that made a proper diagnosis and got you to the help that you needed. I am glad you're here talking to me today. Wow. A little decency. And folks, I won't be swept under the rug. I am not going to stay quiet about this. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for speaking out. We deserve better. But if all we're going to have is the continued garbage that we have for administration, shut it down. Yeah, I'm for that. I don't want to see the hospital shut down. I want to see it run like it should be. And other things too. Listen, there are a number of departments in the hospital that they function excellently. Physical therapy, for one, is as a former patient, and I hear nothing but good things about it. X-ray, lab, a lot of the departments in the hospital do their job. Not so much for the emergency department. And it's not all bad there. But folks, you can't afford to flip a coin. You need to know if you're experiencing a medical emergency day or night, 7 days a week, and you're experiencing a medical emergency, you need to know that you're going to be seen by people who, number one, who care, and number two, who are competent and capable. My wife nearly had to plan my funeral. And I'm sorry if it makes you angry for me to speak up and say something, but I promise you, me and my family are not real happy. I can't function. Who knows how long it's going to take for me to regain my strength. I kind of run through my day half a person because of the delay in care. No, I'm not going to run around slinging daisies and slinging sunshine. There's a cost to this. And I've said before, I'm not an isolated case. One thing that has struck me is the amount of fear. I mean, I've had employees reach out to me, and I understand why they don't speak up. I get that. I've had friends in the medical field, many that I've worked with, and others that I know reach out to me. They don't want to say anything publicly. I get that. It's a small world. You don't want to be blackballed or blacklisted, especially for speaking up for what's right. I understand that. I get that. What I've been shocked by is the number of people in this community who have similar experiences to mine. Some cases, the stories are almost identical, but they're terrified. They're like, please, 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 don't say I know how people are around here. I know how the good old boy network is. Please don't mention my name. And I have to say, I was a little caught off guard. I didn't really expect that. However, by the way, I've been treated by some in the community. I understand. But it's a shame. Folks, make your voices heard. Your voices need to be heard. You need to speak up. It's easy. I'm just an old crazy disgruntled, whatever, they want to brand me with. They need to hear your stories. They do. So, I'm asking, particularly if you've had dealings with either Josh Wise, the nurse, or Dr. Kisselberg. A lot of you have shared your experiences there. Make your voices heard. Demand better. I promise to try to keep this shorter and briefer this time. Again, there may be details or whatever things that I'm leaving out. Again, if you want to talk to me, my number is 478-363-0403. 478-363-0403. If you have something you'd like to talk to me about, be more than happy. If you have suggestions or ideas as to how we can facilitate change and get the improvements so that we get the health care we deserve in our community. The health care, by the way, if you're a property owner, you're being taxed. You're being forced to pay for it. Make your voice heard. I think it's time we get what we're paying for. Thank you. Have a good evening, good day, whatever it may be when you see this. Thank you.